Welcome back to the O Gauge Evolution, episode 19. And I have the some people think he's famous, some people think who the hell is this guy? It's Mike Reagan of MTH and Trainworx. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a lot of fun. I know it's gonna be a fun episode getting to bullshit with you about trains. I've seen interviews with you in the past, and as long as we don't get your last name pronounced wrong, we're off to a good start. So
Yeah, right on.
I'm doing all right.
Works for me.
Well, Mike, every a lot of people in this hobby know you, and some people obviously aren't going to know who you are because you're not quite in the light like you used to be. So for the people that don't know who you are, how the hell did you get on my podcast with me? Like, how did you get here, sir?
Oh, just it was a long series of bad decisions over a number of years. That's how I landed here.
For a number of years.
Over a number of years. Yeah. I mean, it didn't happen like, last week. It's been the last 30 years, 35 years. So something like that. Sure.
Yeah. So I know where you're at now. You obviously work for MTH and you do stuff for Trainworx and probably some other things. And but what really got you started in this hobby?
My dad was into trains when I was young. So, he tells me stories, I was barely able to walk and I'm fondling his, HON3 brass logging engines, without the plastic, so I'm sure that if he goes back and opens them up today, all my fingerprints are probably etched in the brass, all
Right.
tarnished in the brass. It'd
That's
be bad
awesome.
if I committed a crime there because I'd be the primary suspect,
Yeah.
but, so, let's see, what did we do? We, went to basic training, got out of high school, went to basic training, and then started college. And I had this great idea. I was going to open a train store. Here's some good free advice for anyone in the model train industry. If you want to make a lot of money, actually, if you want to make a little money in the train industry, start out with a lot. You'll make a little. But so
Sound advice.
so at any rate, I was building a layout for a guy in Ohio, and he's a land developer, and he had the opportunity to buy like the biggest tract of undeveloped land in the county, and sitting right on the property was a train store, Triggs Marina and Model Trains, or Lionel Trains, or Chattanooga Choo Choo, or something like that. And so, I was building this layout, and he's like, "Hey, you want to be partners on this train business?" I was like, "Well, that's a great idea." And so we opened Train America in the summer of '96, and had a customer come in. Oh, we maybe been in business 3 months or so. I had a customer locally come in and, he bought a ton of Lionel stuff, command control. It was back when the, C&O Streamline Hudson had just come out, and, like, the Boston and Albany Hudson and some of those, were they Rio Grande? They were the Dash 840Cs with rail sounds in 'em. Any rate, he dropped, like, 3 grand. I was like, "Yeah, I made a big sale." So he come in a week later and he bought a bunch of MTH stuff, and 2 days later, he comes back with all of it in boxes. He wants to return it, and I'm like, "Shit, what am I gonna do now?" Like, I got 6,000 bucks I paid bills with. I don't have
Yeah.
6,000 bucks in the bank account to give him his money back. So, I scrambled, got him his money back, and his reasoning was, "My doctor said I needed a hobby that would help me relax. This MTH stuff doesn't work with this Lionel stuff, and this is more frucrating than it is relaxing, so I'm gonna no, collect stamps." I don't know what the hell he said, but anyway, give him his money back. And, um, I said right then, I'm like, "You know what?" At that exact moment, I said, "If somebody doesn't come along and fix this command control incompatibility thing in a year, then I gotta do something." And so you had Digital Dynamics out there was, they were selling the LCRUs, um, but nobody was addressing the MTH side of things with Protosounds 1. So a year went by and I found myself an engineer up in Cleveland. Actually, Todd Wagner put us together, Lou Niederlander, who used to work for Right of Way Industries. So I went and saw Lou, went up to his house, met him, said, "Hey, I got this box of MTH stuff and I needed to talk to this box of Lionel stuff. And what can you do?" So about, I don't know, 3, 4 months later, calls me up and he's like, "All right, I got a solution." So we did that. That was the first, I think we called it a UCUB, Universal Command Upgrade Board, that allowed you to put command control in an MTH engine and reuse the Protosound sound system. And, like any young, stupid entrepreneur who doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, my good friend, my good late friend, the hell was his name? What was that cross-dresser who used to own O-Gauge Railroad? Myron Bigger. He was a cross-dresser, in case you didn't know.
I did not know.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Susan James, I think, was his cross-dressing name. Um,
Wow.
so at any rate, he gave me this shit review in OGR, like, probably about 98, 99. Just totally tanked the sales, right? I mean, we're launching our first board, and it just kinda went to pot. I was like, "Well," and then I found out he's a cross-dresser. I was just like, "Okay, whatever." So, but that's where Train America Studios started doing that, and then we got into, really what helped us succeed at Train America Studios was the OEM side, right? Because like Atlas O, Third Rail, Weaver, none of those guys had an engineering department, and they couldn't afford an engineering department, so we basically became that for them, right? We developed our own circuit board, and then their their orders, their OEM orders, right, putting our product in their train from the factory, coupled with Lionel's modular boards, really is what allowed us to succeed because we were able to piggyback on the production quantities, right? So instead of making 200, we were making like 25,000. So we're able to get the price down and get them out there in the marketplace. And so we did that for a number of years. Then my buddy BK called me up from California and he's like, "Hey, I got the speed control. You should check it out." And I'm like, "Okay." So we checked it out. That's where EOB came from. It was pretty sweet. If we got time, I'll tell you a great story about visiting Lionel, about trying to sell them EOB.
We we
It
got
was a,
all the time in the world, Mike. Lay it on us.
it was a colossal shit show for Lionel. So I've got this, what do we have? Well, before that. So any rate, we're at Bob Weaver from the guy that started Weaver Models. I'm at Bob Weaver's place in the old Quality Craft building in the basement where he had his custom 3-rail layout. And I got a pair of Weaver C628s that I later come to find out that Mike made and Bob marketed, but they're, essentially MTH C628s. And I got EOB boards in both of them. And Bob used to run 120 car trains, right? And they were
Wow.
Weaver cars. They all had die-cast trucks, but they were plastic cars. They didn't weigh nothing. So, I got these two C628s in a lash up and got the cab one and started out at the first speed step. And you could the sound was just incredible. How it just stretching the couplers, tung, 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 like
Right.
120 cars worth of coupler stretch. And it was pretty freaking sweet.
That's
So
cool.
we got him at the first speed step, and I was told to run him at the first speed step because that's where the bridge rectifier sees the most amount of action, right? Because the power is being turned on and off so fast. So this train's creeping around the layout. It's phenomenal. And it goes around the layout maybe 4 or 5 times. It's a big layout. I mean, really big. You're pulling, and he's running 480 to 120 car trains at one time. So thing's running, and all of a sudden, bam, it lurches to a stop. I'm like, "Oh, shit, what's going on?" So I run over and I grab the shell, and I burnt my left thumb because the bridge rectifier had gotten so hot that it melted the side of the engine, and that
Right.
just happened to be where I grabbed it. So it was that lesson that taught us, hey, bolt the bridge rectifier to the heat sink because at the time it was just kind of hanging underneath the board. So I bolted it to the heat sink. That fixed the heat problem on the bridge at the first speed step. So fast forward, I don't know, 3 months or something, and it was who was there? It was Dick Maddox, Bill Bracy were in charge at Lionel. Gruba was not there. It was Richard Webster, I think, was there as the engineering officer, whatever position Gruba had, and then Rich Mosier, Jim Rohde, um, couple girls, I don't remember who they were, but they were all in the, engineering department. So anyway, we go to 23 Mile Road, and we go up to the multipurpose room upstairs, and they set up they set up a frickin' folding table, a 6-foot long folding table with this horrendous loop of, it was tubular track, right, with this stupid incline. I mean, it was the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, "Really? You're freaking Lionel, and you guys struggle to set up a test track? Like, you're killing me." So, I had an MTH Rail King 080 with EOB in the tender and a big ass tether, and I had I don't know, I had some other diesel, I don't remember what it was. So, at any rate, they had their Odyssey engine sitting there. So I was just, I'm showing it off. I'm like, okay, so you can put it in, 32 speed step cruise off, and we can run with this, oh, do you have an AC motor locomotive? So they went and got a Santa Fe F3, put it on the track, put it in a lash up to run it nice and smooth, no problem. So I'm like, let's put this Odyssey engine on the track. In fact, let's put your AC F3 on the track with your Odyssey demonstrator. Get through the fucking traction tires right off of it, right? Of the Lionel engine. So I'm like, okay, well, clearly that doesn't work. Let's try an EOB engine with an Odyssey locomotive. So I stick whatever the hell diesel I had, I stuck it on there, and I put it in 32 speed step mode with cruise on, and it just, climbed that outrageous grade, no problem, over, down. I'm like, oh, so then we also have 128 speed step mode. So we've taken your 32 speed step mode and we've multiplied it by 4, and you just punch these buttons on the remote, and the boost button is 1 speed step, and this Odyssey engine's flying around the layout, and this EOB engine's creeping, and go through this whole shebang, and finally for the life of me, I can't remember what her name was, but she's like, we have and they're all asking questions. They're like, well, how do you get the train to run so slow? And I'm like, oh, we use FM technology. She goes, frequency modulation? I'm like, no, it's fucking magic. Come on, you think I'm going to give you my secrets now? Like, I'm here trying to sell you EOB, and you want me to tell you how it works?
That's
Get out of your effing
fantastic.
mind. So,
Fucking magic.
she got pissed about that, and it was just again, I was young and stupid and cocky, and having been in the military, I know how to pick on people really well. Like, I can push buttons until they cry, and I pretty much pissed off the entire engineering staff at Lionel. And Bracy was like, "Well, okay, well, we'll call you." I'm like, "Oh, I heard that before." And out of respect, I was giving them right of first refusal, and so it drug on for like 7 months. Finally, I called Bracy up, and I'm like, "Hey, um, what, you guys have a decision?" And he's like, "Oh, we've decided to pass on it." I'm like, "Great, I'm gonna go ahead and start selling it." "Well, no, you can't sell that." I'm like, "Well, why not?" "It'll violate your licensing agreement." I was like, "Bill, have you even read the fucking licensing agreement?" I mean, all it talks about is the ability to buy R2LCs and rail sounds and in fact, rail sounds isn't even in there. R2LCs from you, and you would provide a reasonable engineering support for any company that was a licensee. So that phone call ended with a lot of FUs and slamming the phone down, and like, no, actually that came later. Bracy was just pissed that I was going to sell it. So anyway, we start selling it, and it takes off like wildfire. And Maddox goes to Atlas O and calls me up, and he's like, "Hey, I gotta have that EOB in these Atlas engines." So in fact, I I come to find out way down the road that he was evaluating K-line cruise control, right? That was back when Gruba and Pearson had pilfered the Lionel technology, and did all their shady dealing. Any rate, and then all that came out in the lawsuit, and K-line went out of business. Jerry shut it
Right.
down, and Dick called me up, and he goes, "Man, I'm really happy we went with EOB." I'm like, "You think?"
Didn't he just passed away, didn't he?
I don't know. I
I
haven't talked
think,
to Dick and
Dick Maddox, right?
yeah.
Yeah, Lionel did released a thing yesterday
Oh,
on Instagram, yeah.
no, I didn't even see it. That sucks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a fun guy. He was an SOB when he was at Lionel, but when he got to Atlas O, we were buddies. So it
Yeah,
was
that's
it was
cool.
pretty good. But, yeah, so anyway, that's the story of EOB in a nutshell with Lionel. So we got EOB and eventually it made it into everything, Atlas, Weaver, Third Rail, and then, um, and how was it? I met John Zahornicki. Somebody had his flyers at York for his little mini commander. Do you remember those?
I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah. So, any rate, he was passing out these. He wasn't there, but somebody was passing out these flyers on these mini commanders, and I was like, "Well, that's pretty cool." So we got back from York. A couple weeks went by, and I picked the phone up, and I got him on the phone. And I'm like, "Hey, it's Mike Reagan from Train America Studios," and he's like, "Oh, hi." I'm like, "Hey." I says, welcome to the industry, but I says, I'll tell you the way it usually works is, more people are mad at you than like you. And he's
Right.
like, well, why aren't you mad at me? And I'm like, I'm on enough people's shit lists. I could use a friend. So we kind of hit it right out. We hit it out of the park right out of the gate. And, he did some design work for me when we had, when we Train America Studios developed LCS, layout control software. Steve Pisano down in Pittsburgh had developed this computer program that, it did amazing things with command control, and I just refused to sell it because, other than flipping the computer off and turning it back on, that was about as far as my tech support went. Well, you can turn it on and off, or we can kick the hard drive. Those are your options, sir. I don't know why the hell the thing doesn't work.
Right.
So, um, but yeah, he John did some design work for that, and then we kind of expanded. We were doing True Blast 2 boards for Williams, right? We rescued Williams out of the dying cow horn and did the 8-second grade crossing horn and whistle and the bell. In fact, that was we recorded that on an Ohio Central GP10 with Rich Melvin.
Oh, nice.
He was blowing the horn, and we kept backing up to get the recording, and then he turned the bell on, and the damn thing's air actuated, so it would go ding, ding, ding. Oh, this sucks. So Rich has got his watch on. He's got a ball peen hammer. I'm like, go, and he's going on the bell, so we don't have that stupid air release.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then when Lionel had their big warehouse sale, right, with Madison Hardware, all that shit that Kuhn had, that auction. Like the genius I am, I was in Seattle buying a 1985 GMC Suburban with a naturally aspirated 6.2-liter diesel, which was a gutless pig. But
They are.
Weaver had those reefer cars with the generator in it that would run with the 3 LEDs. It'd be
Yeah.
green, it'd turn off, it'd go yellow and turn red, and the generator would come on. That was also my 6.2-liter naturally aspirated GMC Suburban engine in Rich Melvin's parking lot.
Oh, that's I have one of those cars. It's actually at a buddy's of mine house. He
Yeah,
has to ship
yeah,
it to me, but
that's
I do
that's
own
what
one of
that
those
is.
cars.
That's the only vehicle I ever sold and made money on. I bought it for 5 and I sold it for 6, so
Nice, dude.
yeah.
That's awesome.
But I was driving across the country during that auction. So, while Grzybowski was super stoked that he bought, 7 pallets worth of coil couplers that he'll never sell, I was sucking wind going up a grade in Idaho in that 6.2, and the fricking thing's overheating. I got all the windows down and the heater on, trying to keep it from not overheating. But
Yeah, I've been down
so
that
anyway,
road.
that was basically TAS. And then, you know, Lou Kovach and Neil Young, they were building this new, amazing TMCC2, which turned out to be Legacy, and that was a whole shit show. That turned into a lawsuit between Lou and Neil, but man, they were making serious bank off Lionel at the time. Lionel just
Yeah.
kept writing checks to him like crazy, big fat $1 million checks. And
Were you already at Lionel when they were
no,
doing that?
no, no, no,
No.
no, no. Yeah. So So if you go back and look, when Legacy was released, they copyrighted the output of the RS-232 port on the Legacy base, and that was to keep me from doing anything with it. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, wow." Yeah. Oh, so, I don't even remember when the hell it was, but it was Bracy, and I mean, that guy used to fall asleep in meetings. He was any rate, um, we have this big shouting match on the phone about whatever, and, they cancel my licensing agreement from Lionel. And I'm like, "Oh, well, that sucks."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Great, TAS is out of business." And then I'm like, "Wait, everybody wants EOB. Everyone's using EOB." So the phone calls started happening. "Hey, if you still want EOB boards, I need you to buy Lionel boards for me." So,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay," like a cockroach. I just wouldn't die. "Get this asshole out of here. The fucker won't die." So I don't know. Fast forward some more. Legacy. I think Legacy was just released. It was 2000 Christmas of 2007. And, right, because they shipped the big boy without Legacy, and then Legacy came afterwards. So, I guess it was about maybe January of '08, Zahornicki calls me up and he's like, "Hey, um, would you be interested in working for Lionel?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. What do you got?" He goes, "We need somebody to take over the service department." And I was like, "Shit, dude, I don't need those headaches. Thanks. No, but no thanks."
Right.
And we ended the call. A couple weeks later, he calls back and he's like, "Did you take any time to consider?" I'm like, "Dude, that place is a fuster cluck. I don't want anything to do with it." He goes, "Well, we want to pay you this much." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm suddenly interested. So yeah, okay. I've never had a figure salary before. That sounds wonderful." So yeah, started February 16th of '08. I started and with Lionel. And then most people are probably familiar with what we've done over there, what we did over there. Back when service worked. Can I say that?
You sure can, sir.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, yeah.
You sure can.
Back when warranty and non-warranty repairs were on a 3-day turn, and warranty repairs were charged, or non-warranty repairs were $60 plus parts and shipping. So that was a long time ago. Back when it worked.
Yeah, it's, yeah, I agree. Back when it worked, I agree with that because I experienced it when it worked, and I've experienced when it no longer works, and now we just fix things now. So yeah,
You
you
just
can
fix
definitely
things
say
now.
that.
If you can get
Yeah,
if you can get a circuit board that works the first 5 times, but
that's
what do
that
I
is
know?
true. Yeah, what do you know?
What
What do
do
you
I
know?
know?
No,
It's not
like
like we tested every circuit board we programmed in Lionel Service and marked it with an infrared pen before we shipped it to find out if you guys were shanking us for free circuit boards. So, or,
exactly.
like I get to Lionel and they're like, "Oh yeah, their CW80 doesn't work. Let's ship them a case of 3." The fuck is wrong with you people? You should have seen
Terrible.
the number on the books for all those CW80s they shipped out for free. And then this asshole gets there and we're like, "Yeah, I'll ship you another CW80. Pry your handle off and cut the cord and send those to me." "What? I'm
Right.
gonna do what?" Yeah. Uh, this isn't Biden wasn't in office at the time. So, this isn't charity trains. Hey,
Right.
you want a you
Right.
want a $80 transformer for free? Give me some evidence. And,
Yeah.
"Oh, we'll go to Harbor Freight and we'll buy some cords and send you those." Yeah, but Harbor Freight doesn't sell those orange handles you gotta pry off with a crowbar.
Sure don't.
And we had enough of
Sure.
those things to make a collage on, like, 7 walls. It was
Dude, that
impressive.
is insane.
It is. It is. But,
That's it's crazy. They were just like, "We'll just send 3." That doesn't even make sense. It's a
no,
terrible
no.
idea.
Yeah, and then, it was like, yeah, dealer would call at Christmas. "Oh, I got a starter strut and the transformer's bad." "Yeah, no problem. We'll send you 9, and you don't have to bug us again." I was like, "Holy shit. Must be nice to give money away like that."
It must be.
Yeah,
It must be.
must be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So my introduction to you as like a lot of people that are in the trains right now, the younger guys, is when you were making videos as head of the service department, I guess. And dude, they were like, I know you don't think so, but I watched the shit out of those videos back in the day to learn things, and they were great, man. I loved them. So
You know,
oh, they were
I
fantastic.
I got in trouble for those videos.
Did you?
I did, yeah. Do you remember the April Fool's video we did about legacy? I read the turbo encabulator script,
Okay, yeah,
like
yeah, I do remember
Nova's
you did a
onions
fake video,
and
yeah.
drawn reciprocating dingle arms and shit like that. The people in New York called, they were screaming at me, "You gotta get that off the internet. It's April
Jeez,
1st. The fuck?
it's hila
Don't you have a sense of humor?" They were pissed.
it's
They were
hilarious.
pissed. And
It's
fast track
hilarious.
expander paste. It's a shame that
That's the best one.
it's a
That was the
shame that
best one.
container fell in the ocean on the way over. It's a real shame. That would have been a really hot seller.
Yeah, that would've been fantastic, and, I may have bought a few engines because of your reviews on engines,
Yeah.
so
Did
thanks,
you
Mike.
did you ever watch the one on the, culvert loader unloader?
I don't think so. I don't think I
If
saw
you can
that one.
find it, you should go back and watch it. It's pretty freaking hysterical because I'm literally right at the end of the video, I'm like, "Hey, it's just like the post-war one. You gotta rack the shit out of it to make it work."
It's just like the post.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny,
That's
dude.
pretty funny.
That is funny. That's
Yeah.
funny that you were just the head of service just making videos in your spare
We were
time, like,
bored, right? I mean, we fixed everything. We had exploded view diagrams for frickin' everything. We had parts for everything. You know, repairs were running like a Swiss watch, and I went from being a firefighter to being a fire marshal to being a fire watcher, and, I'm in this tower, and I'm just watching for fires, and I'm like, "This sucks. I'm freaking bored. Let's go make some videos." And that's what we
it's like
did. I mean,
videos.
literally, we all those videos with me in it, with the exception of that Vision Line introduction video CD or whatever that I did with Zahornicki. With the exception of that, all those videos were made with a $65 digital camera with a flip screen
I like a
and,
hand it's like a
$40 worth
Sony
of
camera,
lights
yeah.
off of, some website, and
That's
that was
awesome.
it.
So, Mike, how did you go from the head of service at Lionel to the big dog? What is that, production manager? Is that,
Yeah, so
title you had?
yeah, so there was a big transition, change of power, whatever you wanna say. So before we get there, service was in Michigan, right?
Right,
So
yeah,
so when Zahornicki was there, engineering was in Michigan. John took engineering to Santa Clara, California. Um, Jerry, the only time the quote unquote executive offices were in Michigan is when Jerry was there. When Jerry wasn't there, it was all in New York City. And then I came in, ran service in Michigan for about 14, 15 months. And then eventually we just picked it up and we pulled service out of there and moved it to Ohio. And and then they had the big change. Oh, they had the big merger with NASCAR, right? It was the NASCAR
yeah.
diecast business and Lionel were joining forces, blah blah blah. And then it was basically um what's the right word? I'm gonna say convergence, but it was basically pulling the company back together. So engineering stayed in California for my whole tenure there, but then, they wanted to do it in North Carolina. And so Howard Hitchcock came in as the CEO to take over Jerry's position. And then Scott Turkington, he got the boot, and Elrod took over the CFO. And Jerry called me up and he's like, look, I need you to move to North Carolina because nobody down there knows shit about trains. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you offering me? So after lengthy negotiations, I begrudgingly moved to North Carolina, which in hindsight was probably the best thing I ever did. But um, they moved us down here and took over director of production. And then, the saying at Lionel, the reward for good work is more work.
Right.
They should almost make shirts at Lionel that say, we have this special policy at our company that if you do really good work, you get to do everyone else's work too. Uh, so, it started out director of production, and then that led into, I mean, I don't know if it was director, but it was, I basically took over tooling, approving POs for tooling, and which then led to design, keeping, because Lionel for the longest time, if you go back and look, go back and look to 2012, 2011, 2012. right? When Lionel started putting whistle smoke in trains.
Right.
And then, they changed the location of the switches. Like they were dumping you had a I don't know, you had a Pacific or you picked the train, I don't give a shit. And they had paid $180,000 to tool it up. And then they threw like another $70,000 at it to modify the boiler casting and make a separate steam dome so that, and then the magnets and all that shit so that would come off. And then it's just like, God almighty, why are you throwing so damn much money at it, right? I mean
Yeah.
I mean, the whole time I was there in production, I just kept fighting engineering. I'm like, "Keep it simple." You know, 99% of the consumers that own a legacy engine can't make 85% of it work. They don't even know what the fuck buttons to push, right? Like,
Right.
here, I
Right.
got a question for you, and if I've asked you this before, play dumb. How many levels of smoke does a legacy engine have?
I'm gonna play dumb.
Well
Hit me.
well,
I'm gonna go 3.
3? That's 24.
Well,
There's
so if
24
you
levels there's 24 levels of smoke in every fricking legacy engine ever produced.
so are you counting, like, if you use the increased labor?
Yep.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, there's 8 notches for steam and 8 notches for diesel, right? So the steam is the intensity of the chuff, 8, and you have 8 on low, 8 on medium, and 8 on high. That's 24 levels of smoke,
Right.
right?
Yeah, 'cause
Most
that's what I
people
used to do in videos,
well, I
is
got
turn the
3.
labor up.
Yeah, I got 3. Yeah. See, you don't know. How do you make your big boy do the wheel slip?
You put the brake all the way on and then release it. Get the
Okay,
wheel
well,
slips
you're
on.
one of the few that know how to do that. Did I make a video about that?
You did make a video about that,
Did
and
you
I
watch it?
remember, dude, yeah, of
You're
course I watched it.
you
I was
you
that
know, you
I was so excited to get that engine.
you're the worst person to ask these questions to.
Yeah, so, like, I think I told you this when you were on my live stream, but, I remember you being it was a video of you at York at the legacy users, whatever the hell they call
Yeah,
that
lug
thing that
nuts.
they used to do. And you used to go in there and, like, people would ask you stupid shit, and you would just, like, rip them for asking dumb questions, right? But, like, I remember you being in there, you were in I think you were in, like, an orange Lionel shirt, and you're like, "The big boys will deliver before the end of the year." And, you didn't lie, dude. They delivered that bitch on Christmas Eve, so I was super excited about that. But, like, let's talk about that catalog in specific. I got the catalog or the poster behind me of the Vision Big Boy, the 2014 Big Book, which in my opinion is probably the best catalog ever come out of Lionel. Like, how did you guys go through, like, selection of what to put in that book? Because, like, the entire catalog is full of bangers, Mike. It's stupid. Like, that it's like you were trying to empty bank accounts with that catalog.
Well, it was not impossible. And the reason it wasn't impossible because we started tooling smarter, right? So, you'd have a previous year and you've got 3 steam engines in there that all have, whistle smoke. That's $250,000 worth of tooling. That pretty much broke the bank, right? So, trying to think what engine it was. I think it was a Berkshire. We're making a Berkshire, and I'm like, we're gonna put whistle smoke in it. They're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to redesign. I'm like, you're full of shit. Just throw a DSMK, dual smoke unit in there, and plumb it. Oh, we can't do that. We can't do that. I'm like, really? Show me why you can't do that. So,
Right.
I had my boys in service, had the guys in service mock one up, and I'm like, works fucking perfect. What's the problem? Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Exactly.
whoa, whoa, and then I start getting all the, it's just like, look, it's simple, right? We have to pay for a new stamping bracket, right? That's a $200 tool. After the production's done, you scrap it. And, it was maybe 2 or 3 line dies. Um, and then we had to I don't even think I think we ended up using the 90-degree elbow from the 261 project.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and then they had the secondary operation. They had to drill 2 holes, one for the smoke outlet
Mhm.
and one for the whistle to actually sit down, in the boiler.
Right, right, yeah.
I think total cost for that Berkshire to make the damn thing whistle smoke was like $2,300 in tooling, right? Which is a far cry from 80,000.
Right, that
And,
was the 765 with Rich Melvin's voice in it. I think that's the
yeah,
one you're talking about,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, it's like, there's really much smarter ways to do this than
Right.
what you've done it. And, I used to have a poster in my office in Ohio. Anybody who had ever been in my office, it's got a picture of the running of the bulls in Spain, and the caption is, "Just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid."
Right.
It was tradition. Yeah,
Yeah.
tradition. Just because 'cause you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid.
Yeah,
So
it seems like a lot of the things that like, it's nice to have the switches moved to the top of the engine where you take the little dome off, and, like, it's cool. You don't gotta take the engine on off the
yeah,
track on the
yeah,
pull
it's
strip,
great, but, for
but
profits, it blows.
it's not worth the cost. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if you're making a new tooling, we could throw that in there, but, like, to go back and retrofit old tooling seems like a bit of a
Oh,
silly
yeah,
waste of
it's
money.
expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
it's super expensive, and, in the Lionel way is you just cut POs for tools, cut POs for tools, cut POs for tools. It was a lot of I don't know what they do now, but, when I was there, we cut, Christ, we cut $800,000 worth of frivolous tooling out of the budget annually. Easy. Well, I told you before the 21-inch passenger cars, right? Did I ever tell you that story?
Yeah, we talked about this at trains, and I was gonna ask you if we could talk about that on a podcast. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if
So
you wanna throw that out there, that'd be awesome.
yeah, here's the so any rate, there was a fellow by the name of KK Koo, had a factory called Afatech, and the guy had 3 PhDs, just a frickin' genius, and he was one of the few people who could make aluminum tools, right? So, it's 2026. You're gonna make a new freight car. You don't make a new freight car out of hardened tool steel because 'cause you're never gonna run 7,000,000 shots through it, ever, right? So, hey, if I can make my tools cheaper and they're good for 5,000, 10,000 shots, that's realistic in today's day and age. So, met with KK, and should I tell you the story about no, I won't tell you the story. At any rate, so the 21 passenger cars. So KK, what KK did was he made one master slide tool, right, for the body, and he owned it, right? Lionel didn't own the slide tool. KK owned the slide tool, and he would make aluminum inserts. So when we designed those, I'm like, hey, we already have this vestibule tooling from the 18-inch aluminum cars. Let's just use those set of tools. And we already got tools for trucks from the 18-inch aluminum cars. Let's use those trucks, and we'll just make a new coupler. And, so basically KK had to tool the car body, which, for most of those cars, the roof was the same. So really all he had to change was the side slides. And then he would tool up, a new tool, aluminum tool for windows for whatever the car is, right? Because all the freaking windows are different. And then the interior, and if I'm not mistaken, the frame was stamped metal. Or maybe, yeah. Shit, I don't remember. Is his stamp metal frame? Yeah, it's stamp metal frame
I think they're all
on
stamp
the
metal, yeah.
21-inch cars, and then we made one tool or one set of tools for I think it's die cast piece on the bottom, the underbody detail.
Right,
So,
yeah.
I think the first 4 or 5 21-inch cars came with the no, it was a streamlined, New York Central engine, Empire State Express,
Okay.
and so I don't know. Take a stab at what the tools cost for 5 brand new 21-inch Empire State Express passenger cars.
I think you told me, but I'm gonna go with, the dumb answer, and we'll say 25 grand.
Yeah, that's the smart answer. It was 25,000 bucks. If Lionel would have tooled that up the old-fashioned way, that would have been $130,000.
Right.
Right? So, and then every car after that, right, because the roof, like I said, originally the roof was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So then, the shit, I don't even know how many there are now. 21-inch cars, they probably gotta have, like, 36, 37 different flavors of it between generator cars and full vistas and half vistas and sleepers and everything else.
Right.
But, every time Lionel paid for tools, side slides for those tools, the unit cost, the ROI, the return on investment tooling cost would go down. So, at 37, at 30, let's just say it's 36 flavors of cars. I bet you the total tool cost for all of that is probably $64,000. So you're talking like $2,000 a car in tooling cost, which is unheard of. I don't give a shit what industry you're in. That's unheard of.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, it's just like, you can tool smarter. It's not hard. Just,
Yeah.
you gotta use your noggin and think outside the box.
Yeah, like after like, 'cause, I think the conversation we had at Trains last, September, we were talking about the price, the new Lionel passenger cars, and you told me and Sid that story, and we were like, "What the fuck?"
Right?
Like, "Okay, I guess I'm not buying Lionel cars."
I guess, I mean, look at it this way. At least Jesse James used a gun, right? I mean, highway
Yeah.
robbery, there was something.
Exactly.
All you get is a catalog. It's shit. You don't even get a catalog anymore. You get a digital copy.
Yeah, I think there's no printed catalog in the catalog coming out in a couple next week or whatever it is, but, so Mike, we know of your history, and like obviously you left Lionel about 10 years ago. I think we talked about today or whatever. Um, and so like one of the things that have been interested in talking to you about, and I could have done this not on a podcast. I didn't need a podcast to talk to you about this, but can you like talk a little bit about your Trainwork stuff and the processes and techniques that you use for that?
Sure, sure. So, typically the way it starts is you get a customer that calls up and says, hey, I'm interested in having a train layout built. So we send them a questionnaire, and it's a pretty simple questionnaire, right? Are you familiar with trains? What do you want? TMCC, legacy, DCS, conventional? Do you want all your switch controllers in one place? Some basic stuff. What's your
Right,
minimum curve? Uh, so on and so forth. They fill that out, and then we just basically start a conversation. And so, we basically look for, what's your square footage, what's your space look like, and then, we'll design a railroad. We start with baby steps, right? There's a design process, which is like, it's basically like 2 grand, $2,000. We come up with a design and go back and forth with the customer if there's something they don't like, or tweaking it. And then once we have a track plan, basically we give them a ballpark, right? I mean, if
right,
they want to build it themselves, here's your track plan, here's your component list, have at it. If you want us to build it, basically, we know what the total square footage of the actual layout is. So, if the room is 800 square feet and the layout's only 520 square feet, we only quote 520 square feet.
right,
Um, and then Yeah, go from there. We try to get a feel for what they want early on, like with the questionnaire. What do you want on your railroad? You want, all western mountains and big valleys and trestles and, bridges crossing bridges. Do you want water? You want a harbor? What do you want? You want a turntable? And everybody, I got a 4x8 and I want a Z stuff 34-inch turntable. It's like, no, sorry. I mean, honestly, it's pretty crazy. We got a questionnaire from a guy one time. He had some carpenter come out and build 5 levels of tables in, like, literally a bedroom. So take your bedroom, and you got 5 decks in there. He's like, "Oh, and I want this, and I want this curve," and I'm like, my fat head couldn't even fit between the levels, to do the scenery, let
right,
alone actually fit anything in there. So,
right.
a lot of it has to do with just preventing pitfalls. I mean, we hear from customers all the time. In fact, Roger and I were laughing about it last week. And the customers come to us and they say, well, I want to hire you guys because you know what not to do. Okay, fair enough. So they'll say something, whatever it is, and it's like, nah, you don't want to do that. Oh, but I'm the paying customer. Okay, you know what? Listen, here's how it's going to work. I'll do it, but understand that you're going to pay more money in the future for a change order for me to fix it. Oh no, you're full of shit. Okay, no problem. Here you go. I'll give you 2-inch center rail to center rail spacing because clearly you know more than I do.
Ooh,
You
that's
run your
terrible.
21-inch passenger cars and your big boy, and they, smack each other off the layout. I don't know what to tell you. So,
Yeah,
but
that's rough.
yeah. So, at any rate, we give them a ballpark, and the ballpark is just we basically it gives us the opportunity to say, he's got all Ross track and, it's all Z stuff switch machines and it's, you know, 5 loops of track. So it's 5 or 10 180-watt powerhouses and power masters and DCS and scenery. It just gives us a high level view. And we'll come back and we'll say it's going to be between this price and this price, right? This is the lowest, this is the highest. And then if they say, "Oh, yeah, we're interested," then, we sharpen the pencil and we go deep dive it and try and figure out where it's at.
Yeah,
And,
that's cool.
honestly, for a completely scenic, fully functional layout with, say, Ross track and ballast, Ross switches, Z stuff machines, all command controlled, DCS legacy, um, weathered buildings, weathered accessories, everything, everything having been touched. Another thing that people don't understand is like, "Oh, I've got all these Lionel accessories that I've had for 40 years. Let's put those on the railroad." And it's like, okay, well, you got to understand that, I'm going to have to fix 39 of them because, the grease turns to concrete, the rubber drive belts and the cranes, they all dry rot and break, you name it. And it's culvert loader, unloader, you have to, um, but, so what and typically what we tell them is it's 350 to $500 a square foot. But that's a complete turnkey layout. You literally call us up, we build your railroad, we bring it in a truck, we carry it in, we assemble it on site. Your layout is completely, uh, like if you had to take your layout apart right now and it was a TW layout, you would need a number one Phillips head bit and a bottle of, warm water, and warm water on your tabletop scene to release the glue on the scenery material and suck up the ballast, and you can literally just take all those pieces of track out and disassemble your layout. The whole thing goes together with carriage bolts and, wing nuts.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
you know and then even the wiring underneath, you lay underneath a TW layout, it's like you're looking at an electrical schematic. We use Euro blocks and, everything's stapled. We've got raceways under there. It's not like some of these things where you drill holes through your supports and you got a bunch of wires coming to one place and spread out. It's nothing like that. I mean,
So
it is 100% professional layout.
since you happen to, work with MTH now, and you obviously have plenty of experience with Legacy, um, what would you suggest for wiring to make Legacy and DCS both work the way they're supposed to? Because I hear a lot of people have problems with their DCS signal or whatever. Legacy's obviously pretty solid. It's not too hard. It's pretty hard to mess that one up. But how do you get your DC? What wiring do you suggest for DCS?
It's super simple. If you try to put DCS on a traditional 50s Lionel layout, do you know what a traditional 50s Lionel layout is?
The little 4x8s on the tubular track.
Nope. You got one common ground, right? You got a common ground. So let's say you got 4 loops of track on your railroad,
Okay.
right? You got a bunch of street lights and you've got some animated accessories and you got some building lights, right? And you put all your grounds onto one frickin' wire,
Okay, I see
right?
now. Yeah, yeah.
So you want DCS to work reliably? Super simple. You got 4 loops of track. That means that you need to have 8 wires for your tracks. You need
Right.
to have a hot lead and you need to have a dedicated ground lead for each loop of track, right? You still have a common ground, and that common ground is for the all of your accessory lights and for all of your animated accessories, right?
Okay.
And you will tie all the grounds together, right? But you won't tie all those grounds together until you get, well, 7 inches in front of your DCS TIU, right? So because if you don't tie your accessory ground to your track grounds, none of your non-derails will work,
Ah, okay.
right? Super simple. So, oh, and the other thing you do is you never put power through a TIU ever.
No?
No,
Okay.
passive mode, only passive mode. You use a Lionel Legacy Power Master. Um, they have 2 Power Masters, right? Yeah, they have the 360 watt and the 180 watt Power Master, I think.
I
So
think
if
so.
if
So
you want 20 amps of power on your track, you use two 180-watt powerhouses with a 360-watt Power Master. Power Master connects to that that separate ground and the hot lead for the track for, track 1. And like I said, you tie the ground for all 4 tracks and your accessory ground. You tie it all together right in front of the TIU. And here's why all of that works reliably, because your DCS signal goes out your center rail, right?
okay.
It's received by your DCS locomotive and it's returned. That signal is returned on the ground rail. So when you have your traditional 50s layout, that return signal has to go through the ground of all 4 tracks, in the ground of all your lights, in the ground of
Yeah.
all your animated accessories, and the ground of all of your street lights. The signal goes out at 100 and it comes back at a -6. So your signal strength is shit.
Right.
But if you have a dedicated hot and a dedicated ground lead for the track, signal goes out the hot lead or goes out the center rail, received by the engine, sent back on the ground, which is an uninterrupted path right back to the TIU, signal strength 10.
Oh, nice.
And that's it. And you can take your legacy base or your TMCC1 base or base 3, whatever the hell you got, and you can stick it on where you have all those common grounds together,
Mhm.
right in front of your TIU, and then all the same rules apply, right? If you got signal interference, you use a ground plane wire or blah, blah, blah. Um, and then the only other trick to running DCS is, again, you got 4 main lines, right? And you got DCS signal on all of them in passive mode. You don't need super TIUs, you don't need any shit like that. You just straight up passive mode, it's gonna put the digital signal on the track. The other trick is, let's say of all those 4 tracks, you've got 4 sidings on each track, right? Whether they're passing sidings or stub sidings or whatever. So you got 16 sidings, right? 4 loops of
Mhm.
track. Each track
Yep.
has 4 sidings. You got 16 sidings. And you've got 15 DCS locomotives parked on those sidings. Those sidings need to be powered off when you're not using the locomotive,
Okay, so
okay?
just like isolate them and put them on a toggle or whatever,
Yeah,
just
or
kill the whole track.
put a Lionel ASC2 in there and shut them off with the remote, right? And then as long as your parked locomotives aren't eating signal, you will have signal strength 10 all over your road.
Okay.
And, I mean, the same rules apply for power distribution, right? You wanna put a drop on your center rail every 8 or 10 feet and connect that to a bus, right? I mean, I typically use a 16 gauge stranded bus and I use 18 gauge stranded feeders up to the up and I typically will do I'll ground both outside rails,
Okay.
right? So if I take a stick of Ross and I'll do like like color codes I use at TW is, track 1 is red, track 1 ground is white with a red tracer. Track 2 is
Okay.
blue, white with a blue tracer, violet, and then gray, or whatever the hell color you got, it doesn't matter. But, yellow, we use yellow for 12-volt fixed voltage like we would use for the switch machines, and orange is variable voltage for accessories, and, black is the ground wire for orange and yellow. And then if you need, you wanna do an isolated rail for crossing gate signal or whatever, you can you gap the rail and you look underneath the layout and you're like, "Oh, there's a red wire or there's a white wire with a red tracer that's going up to that rail." Just disconnect it there, and that becomes a trigger for your gates or your cross bucks or signals or whatever the hell you wanna use it for.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you breaking that down because it seems like on my Discord group, you always got somebody having some
Yeah.
problem with
You
DCS
know
or
and here's the crazy thing, right? So I was at the start of a layout for a guy that's since passed up in Providence, Rhode Island, Tom, and I built him a 27-foot by 29-foot layout that had, like, what was it, 84 square feet of downtown Manhattan on the layout. Um, and I had talked to Barry Broskowitz a week before he passed away, and what he told me on the phone, I was like, "There's no effing way I'm doing this." He wanted me to put wanted me to put a power drop every 8 feet on the center rail and then cut the center rail every 4 feet. I'm like, "You wanna do what?" I'm like, "You're out of your freaking mind, Barry." And it was that layout that I'm like, "Well, shit, I don't need light bulbs and resistors and, well, whatever the crap the other gobbledygook crap is they do up underneath there. You don't need any of that shit." Literally separate hot, separate ground lead for the center rail and the outside rail for each loop of track, golden. In fact, I can take you to a layout, and Bradley and I we plan to make a video explaining all this up in Maine for a fella's layout that I built through TW, who will tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt that his layout works flawlessly, and it's DCS and legacy, and, that's how we wired it. The reason I wanna do it there is so I can lay underneath the table and with the camera and say, "Look, here's your track 1 hot, there's your track 1 ground. Track 2 hot, track 2 ground, accessories, da, da, da. This is how you wire it. You do this, this is what you get. Perfect 10s
Right.
everywhere."
'Cause I typically have pretty good luck with, my DCS setup, except for that one GP35 we're talking about, which I'm pretty convinced is it's not a signal issue, but, it's my stuff works pretty good. Occasionally, I'll get some, like, out of RF range
Yeah,
fucking signal
it
or some
I
shit, but
I've discovered that it throws that out of RF range error on the remote when you do something it doesn't like.
right,
Because
right.
it's like, I'm thinking, here's a thought, fuck off.
Yeah, that's the
Out
thought
of
that I
RF
always have.
range. Yeah, suck this, buddy. Okay,
Right.
I'll shut it off, turn it on again. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But and for the record, I don't work for MTH.
You work for
I'm I
MTH
I'm
Parts.
I'm an equal owner at MTH Parts and Sales, which we are a separate entity from MTH. We
Okay,
share the same building, same office space, but, on paper, MTH Parts and Sales is one business and MTH Trains is another business.
I got you, I got you. My fault, Mike, I misspoke on that.
But
I
you know
did know
what?
that, I
Don't make
misspoke.
me reach out and slap you.
Oh, man, I knew I was gonna get at least one good one from you tonight, but,
Yeah, yeah.
Mike, so as a as a guy who had a lot to do with Visionline and all the innovative stuff that you guys did at Lionel when that was going on, when it was really actual Visionline products, um, what else do you think could be stuffed into some of these models that would be innovative, like, it would be a true Visionline feature? Not I'm not telling you to tell Lionel what to do, I'm just
No, yeah.
curious as your ideas, like, what else could
My
actually be
best
done?
advice is take shit out of it. Quite
Take shit
frankly,
out, yeah.
I mean, look, you get these engines now, they got Bluetooth in 'em, they got TMCC, they got legacy, I don't know, maybe they brush your teeth. There's so much shit crammed in these things that, it's gone to the point of unreliability, right? I mean, just how many Lionel locomotives have you bought in the last year that have worked flawlessly out of the box and still do?
That's a good point. I mean, I understand, like, I haven't bought that many last year from Lionel, but I understand your point because I know a lot of people have had a lot of issues with Lionel as of late. And, I just got the brand new E8 sitting here, the B&Os that they just released, and I was actually shocked how well they ran because I've never had good luck getting E8s brand new from Lionel. I have a set of B&O E7s. I think they were made in the time you were there, and I took them out of the box. They're brand new. It wouldn't pull 5 passenger cars, and I called up the customer service, and she said, "Well, my tech said you're pulling too many cars." I'm like, "If this bitch won't pull 5 cars, I'm airmailing it through
It's
your
not a
front window."
CC2. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, so, but yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. Like a lot of my friends have issues with Lionels. Like the Commodore Vanderbilt had a bunch of issues, from what I understand from my friends. But yeah, you're probably not wrong. It's just all the
Well,
shit that's
I
in them.
mean, so like what was it? The Niagara, Vision Line Niagara, which is the
Yeah,
one that had the smoking water pickup feature?
yeah, that's the
Was it
Niagara.
Niagara? You
Yep.
know, I mean, come on. If you were a service guy, the last freaking thing you want to read in the catalog is, "We've got 47 smoke units in your train." Half these people can't make a fucking smoke unit. They can't even add smoke fluid. Oh, my smoke unit doesn't work. Have you put fluid in it? I put so much fluid in it, it's dripping out the bottom.
Problem one
Okay, well,
solved.
I don't know what to tell you. You might
Right.
want to think about collecting stamps.
Same
You know,
same thing with the depleting coal load on the big boy. Like, I used mine when I first got it to see what it looked
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
and then it
I
broke.
only turned it on to show people,
Yeah,
but I
well,
turned that bitch
don't
right
use it
back
too
on.
much because that stupid piece of rubber will tear, and then it won't work
Yeah,
at all. And
yeah,
it's just and so the reason I say take shit out of it is because, they're going it's the same shit as it was before. They're going so fast that their service has no chance of keeping up, right? Service can't order you have one chance to order parts at Lionel, and that chance is when the production's going on because the next time they make it, I'll bet you dollars to donuts they'll modify that fucking tools. You can't get
yeah,
the part you want, right? It's different. GG1s, look at the Vision Line GG1s. How many busted side frames are there out there from zinc rot?
probably
You
pile.
can't put a Vision GG1 side frame on a JLC GG1 because they modified the frickin' tools, right?
Right,
The frickin' brake shoes hit the wheels. You can't put them on anymore. And rewind to when I was there, right? You got a SD70 Mac, right? SD70 Mac comes out with a DCDR. Great. Hey, you know what? We need more trucks, right? We're out of trucks. Oh, well, the new ones have dual rollers on them. Okay, well, the old ones don't have two pickup wires. I got at the time we had customers out there couldn't put a freaking number board in the shell. Well, how the hell are they going to put a second pickup roller on, or a pickup wire on both trucks?
right,
SD, like we talked the other day, your SD70 ACEs when those first came out, with the godly oversized freaking flanges on them, right? Well, hey, what are we gonna do with this? Well, later on they made them and they had scale, regular flanges. Okay, well, I need some of the oversize. Oh, we modified tools can't have that anymore. So you can order it literally when they make it, and the drawback is they make it so freaking fast and service is so consumed with their own problems that they don't even know it's being made. So when it delivers, you're like, well, shit, I need something. Up. Sorry. No, we don't. No, we threw the tool away. We broke the tool. We modified the tool, whatever. You're screwed, which is why, when I was there, it was, hey, the rule is 2%. Whatever your quantity of production is, service gets 2%. And they would come in and we'd tear them up. We'd reverse assemble the train, but
yeah,
we had parts.
yeah.
Now it goes so fast that, your LCP2 board is obsolete. It's LCP3. So how the hell do you fix that? Well, let's gut it and put DCS in it. I, I like the sounds of that, but it's most people aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, you talked about the 261 earlier. You stole an elbow out of it for one of your projects, and the stanchions on the 261 that hold the handrail,
Hmm.
one of them on the end always is missing or breaks or falls
Yep.
out or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Good luck getting another one. And they've ran the 261. You can't get the same stanchion. They don't make the bastard
Yeah,
anymore.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, after the Vision Line Hudson's route for like 3 years, couldn't get a freaking bell with a magnet in it for the swinging bell feature, right? I don't even think you can get a bell with a magnet in it for the swinging bell feature.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. It's like you're going so fast. If you rewind to post-war times, right? I mean, even MPC and a lot of the early LTI stuff, I'd say up to basically I'd say 2006, 2007, right? Like a AEC 57 switcher. That little stamp metal piece, that's the same freaking part as it was on the 41 switcher. It's the
All
same
right.
thing, right? So
Yeah.
you had them in stock and you never threw that tool away. But, with China manufacturing, it seems to be more about how many can we sell today in service? But yeah, let me put you on hold. Leave your message at the sound of the click.
Right.
It's like, screw off. We don't want to help you. And that it's a problem. What do you do?
So, like, if we flip that to MTH parts, since you're part owner in that, do you guys? So, I know you have a bunch of MTH parts that you're probably still going through because of all of the just whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But so, like, when you guys run out of parts, so say you run out of a bell for a big boy or whatever, are you guys remanufacturing those, or are you just
Yeah. So
replenishing your parts?
so here's the great thing about MTH that I've discovered in the last 5 years of being there, right? So the factory actually keeps a lot of spare parts on hand. So it's not uncommon for us to be able to reach out to the factory and be like, "Hey, do you happen to have any side frames for SD90 Max?" "Yeah, we've got 6." "Great, we'll take them." Right? Or you'll reach out and they'll say, "No, we don't have any." "Okay, well." then you go look at the production schedule and you see, okay, SD90 Max is going to be run again in 9 months. So you tell the factory, hey, when we rerun these SD90 Max, we'd like 3090 Max side frames, lefts and rights in, black and silver is basically
Right.
how we order side frames and pilots, like I got a bunch of guys out there that like two rail fixed pilots on their three rail trains. Well, you look at all these diesels, right? You got silver and black zebra stripes and white and black zebra stripes and orange with green steps and blah, blah, blah. You get black, right? I mean, Testors is in business for a reason. So give them some,
Buy some paint.
I mean, do you really want to scratch build a plastic pilot to mount on the front of your diesel and smash it into other cars so it falls apart? Or, do you want to buy my $25 two rail die cast pilot and paint it?
Yeah, then you can smash in all sorts of shit and you'll be fine.
Exactly, you can smash into whatever you want. Just don't put a Katy coupler on the front. Those plastic couplers don't hold up as well as, the big old crab claws.
I'm with you on that, dude. I'm not a Katie kinda guy, but, before we get off here, Mike, I got a couple questions, I know since you were the head of service, from Lionel, and I know you fixed a pile of trains in your day and probably still do. Can you give these guys out here, like, just a basic group of tools that you would recommend to keep on their workbench to repair some trains?
Yeah, so if you well, let's put it this way, if you're gonna repair trains with electronics in it, you gotta have a good RMS voltmeter, right? I use a Fluke. I got a Fluke 179,
Fluke
true RMS
179.
meter. Gotta have one of those. Um, your basic that a soldering iron with a fine tip, flux solder and, solder wick so you can unsolder stuff.
Right.
And, what else do you need? Um, I mean, that's it. I mean, if you monkey with a lot of steam engines, Weehaw makes a metric nut driver set, which is pretty nice. Hold that thought. They make a nut driver set, which is perfect. It covers everything. I can get that tiny little linkage out of, that MTH uses to hold all the valve gear in on the
Yeah.
ocean hangers. I can get that out. I can get, side rod screws out. Hell, that thing even works on side rod screws on standard gauge engines. So
Oh, nice.
there's, that's really about it. You know, you need a good pair of wire cutters. I'm a hillbilly when it comes to stripping wires. I'll just use a pair of wire cutters to strip the end off. But wire strippers, um, shrink tube, definitely got to have some heat shrink tube and a lighter. And that's really about it. Maybe a bridge rectifier wouldn't be a bad thing. If you got an AC transformer sitting next to you and you got a bridge rectifier, so you can convert it to DC to test motors and fan motors and shit like that. And it's really it. That fluke meter, put that thing on continuity and verify, what's going on.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need.
Yeah. I felt like that was important to, to ask because I see a lot of guys, asking questions about like tools and stuff. And I'm like, this guy knows. Mike Reagan will give us some advice. But
Yeah. I mean, if you're fixing Lionel, a sledgehammer is handy if you got one nearby. Because nothing sucks more than, wrapping up a repair and then having to fix your drywall. If you just smash it without throwing it, you still get the relief and you have less work to do when it's done.
that's a great answer. That's not as good as the answer you told me before we started this, but we'll go with that.
What answer did I tell you? Well, a sledgehammer's a BFH, man. I can go grab one of those out of the shop if you want to see what that looks like.
Oh, man, Mike, do you have time to show off your latest creation?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do it with a webcam. I don't know if it's gonna work, so
Okay, yeah,
bear
let's
with me.
give
I'm
it a
gonna
go.
unplug from the power grid. Let's see if we can do this. Let me change this thing on. All right.
'Cause this is quite impressive. And when you sent me pictures today, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, clearly I have some spare time on my hands. So there it is. That is a 1/35th scale. How the hell does this work? 1/35th scale scratch built chateau. In fact, this is really weird. Sorry, trying to work on this webcam. That is can you see it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a 1/35th scale tank transporter, and that's the chateau in 1/35th scale.
What are the dimensions of your chateau?
What's that?
What are the dimensions?
The tabletop is 7 foot long, so it's like 6'6", I think. Let me get to the back. The back is completely different from the front.
Dude, that's so cool, man. That is so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, keeps me busy. And then, oh yeah, here's a bunch of locomotives laying over here. This I had to take a break, so I built a church.
Oh, wow. Just
So
stack some on locomotives. Hell with it.
yeah, I
They'll
got
be
trains.
fine.
Who needs trains?
Oh,
Who
man.
needs?
Oh, last question before we end this. Mike, I know you've been in this hobby a long time. You're probably about cashed out with it. But what do you think the future, or what do you think the state of the hobby is right now, and what do you think the future of the hobby is?
Well, I think the state of the hobby is pretty solid right now. I mean, there's like yourself and there's some other influencers out there that are really hitting the train stuff hard. I'm I shouldn't say shocked, but I'm impressed to see what Ken Jr. is doing over at Train World. It seems like every time I get on Facebook, Ken Jr.'s got somebody else in there with a video and product announcements and blah blah blah. Um, there's just I think social media is really driving the hobby a lot. I'd be curious to know how many people are actively building layouts. Um, I talked to Steve Brenneisen over at Ross, and he's always telling me how far behind he is. So you wouldn't be that far behind if you had inventory and didn't have orders. Um, same thing with Mike Roeder over at Gargraves, right? I mean, they're selling product. I think for the longest time he was out of bumpers. He had to literally stop everything he was doing and go build bumpers. So I that's good, but, it's a lot like the layout customers at TW, right? I mean, you could have people just out there buying, 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 not actually doing anything with it, which, that's not bad for the hobby, but, on the same token, it's like it would be better if they were building, using it and but, I tell people all the time, I hear people say, "Oh, man, the hobby's dying." Yeah, how many train shows do you go to a year, Zach?
Oh, I live in Florida, so I only go to York, both Yorks, and I'm going to Edison in New Jersey, and I'm going to the NMRA. But other than that, it's typically 2. This year I'm going to 4, plus my little local show here, but that's just to go give money to the Lions Club.
Right. So, what I tell people is, so how old are you?
I am 41.
41. So I'm 53, right? So I'm a Gen Xer. And how many social clubs do you belong to? You belong to Lions or Rotary Club or any of that kind of stuff?
No.
You know what we don't do as Gen Xers? We don't belong to clubs, right? Baby boomers, baby boomers belong to clubs. They
I
got
love it.
Rotary, they got Lions, they got their train club, they got their church bingo club, or whatever the heck it is, right? They are a socially active generation that belongs to clubs. Our generation, we don't belong to clubs, right? It's not our shtick. If we go to a train show, it's almost a rare occurrence to go to a train show because we're just tech savvy enough to be a little bit smarter. Well, shouldn't say that. We're probably dumber than AI, but you know, we we know enough to get in trouble. So what do? We get on the internet, right? It's just like Amazon. I say it all the time. Jeff's got everything, right? Jeff Bezos has got everything, and I don't even have to leave the comfort of my shop to get it, right? You just literally jump on Amazon. There it is. It'll be here today. Super simple. So I think a lot of people in our demographic are buying trains the same way, right? They're busy working a job, they're raising a family, they're doing this for fun, but what they're not doing is they're not putting it on social media. They're not showing up for train shows. Um, they're quietly in the background doing their own thing on their own time. And, I think there's a hell of a lot more of us than anyone is willing to admit. I think if you were to somehow pry, I doubt Muffins and I doubt Train World. I doubt any of them, track everybody's birthday to see what the average mean age of their customer is. But, I bet you if you were to ask them, the demographic is probably 30 through, 30 and up, I would say. But I bet you there's a lot more 30-year-olds and from 30 to 50, I bet you there's a lot more people there than there are than what people believe.
Yeah,
Like,
just from being on like the social media side, like the amount of people that I run into that are, younger than me it's quite a lot, and like now there's constantly people popping up with new YouTube channels for trains. And like people come hang out every Sunday night. I have a stream on YouTube and like I get like 100 people come hang out, just talk trains every Sunday night. And so I think that's pretty cool. But to what you were saying about like the train shows, a lot of people bitch about York not being what York used to be. And
well,
I'm
I'm one of them. I don't
like,
even go to York anymore. I mean, I was going to York in the heyday back in the late '90s.
yeah,
Oh, dude, it was crazy back then,
yeah.
but now it's like,
The
with the,
the internet's the king.
the hired security who walks around with the swastikas on their arms. Or no, I'm sorry. They're not swastikas, they're just 2 weird looking S's. I'd never seen it. But, you got the Nazi security force, right, that just treat you
Yeah,
like a fat cheerleader,
yeah,
and, it's just like, "This sucks."
yeah,
Saturdays, "Well, you have to stay till 2." Shit, I could be home by 2 on Saturday if I didn't
yeah,
have to stand around here and look at the vendor on either side of me with
yeah,
nobody in the aisles. It's dumb. It's
exactly. I mean, and one thing Muffin said when he was, on my podcast a couple months ago, he said he gets, like, 400 new customers a month.
Yeah,
I'm like, "Holy shit, dude,
yeah.
that's cool." Like, that's good for the hobby.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, and, it's interesting that, his deal of the day is always Lionel. I wonder why that is.
They do seem to be, yeah, Lionel, and he'll sprinkle some Atlas in
Well,
occasionally,
and
but
occasionally, every now and again, you'll see some RMT cars, right?
yeah.
RMT cars, very, very rarely is there an MTH product on there. So it's just like, yeah, baby, there's no MTH overstock. Thank you very much.
That is true. That is true. But speaking of MTH, I believe I'll be on your website here, likely sooner rather than later. I'm trying to pick me up a board for this Jeep that I've been dealing with. So
I got you.
got that going for
Yeah.
me.
So just so everybody knows, the Steam upgrade kits aren't coming until the fall. The
Okay.
factory's way behind, and instead of pushing them and getting something subpar, we're letting them run their course. So we'll have new Steam upgrade kits like September, October. I've had a few people ask me from time to time, and,
Yeah.
that's funny. I'm not gonna tell you who I was talking. Anyway, I was talking to, another parts guy in the industry today. He was talking about another parts guy who, he's like, he knows he's annoying, and he doesn't wanna bother you because if he annoys you, you'll just tell him to F off. I'm like, "Yeah, okay,
It's Mike
good to
Reagan.
know."
That is definitely Mike Reagan.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. I'm not in the limelight anymore. I definitely like to live in the shadows. It's a lot easier to catalog a lot of MTH parts when the phone's not ringing off the hook.
So I'm assuming that means you won't be coming back to York and gracing the orange halls
Yeah,
at the
probably
parts
not.
booth. Damn.
Probably not. Sorry.
That was good times. That one year I got to meet you and talk to you there, that was a pretty good time, and, like, in typical Mike Reagan fashion, you hit me with a little zinger there at the end, so
So did you get another tattoo?
no, man, I only have 2 elbows, bro.
I mean, look, I'm trying to save you money.
Dude, that was the greatest shit. I was like, "Of course Mike Reagan says some slick shit to me."
So so, we're doing a layout install in Scranton, Pennsylvania for a dentist there, big standard gauge, O gauge layout, and I was flying into Scranton, and, another guy from New York was there, Joe. We'll just call him Joe H.
Okay.
So Joe was there, and Roger asked Joe, "Hey, can you run to the airport and pick up Mike Reagan?" And Joe's like, "Oh, that guy's such an asshole." So he begrudgingly goes and picks me up, and we're driving back, and he's like, "I just gotta tell you, I think you're an asshole." I'm like, "And pray tell, why?" He's like, "Well, we were at York one time, and I told you that I had a Commodore Vanderbilt, and it wouldn't pull my passenger cars, and your answer was, 'Nobody buys a Porsche to pull a camper.'" And I looked at him and I said, "It's true. Nobody buys a Porsche to pull a camper."
Right.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?" I said, "The thing's a fucking turd. It
Yeah.
it barely pulls its tender. It's got
Yeah.
an AC motor in it and an LCRU and top speed of like 9. The hell did you think was gonna happen?" He's like, "Well, now that you mention it, you're right. I said it's a Porsche, and you're trying to pull all those heavyweight cars. It's like pulling a
Right.
40-foot fucking camper. The hell?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. And I looked at him and I'm like, "So you still think I'm an asshole?" And he goes, "Oh, no, no." I'm like, "Well, let me reassure you, I am."
Oh, man. Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah, it's
fantastic,
funny.
Mike.
Yeah,
That's good
I
stuff.
got a lot of great stories from my time at Lionel. Just customers that were just freaking irate. Everybody knows Elliot. I'm not going to mention his last name, but I remember Elliot used to call up customer service and just beat the shit out of the girls in the call center. I picked the phone up one day. I'm like, "Look, buddy, I don't know who you think you are, but you talk to my girls like that again, you'll never get through to customer service the rest of your life. You can't talk to me that way." Rah, rah, rah. Like, here, I'll tell you what. Here's the main number for the New York office. You go ahead and call Jerry Calabrese because I don't give a shit. I hung up.
I think I know which Elliot
45
you're
minutes
talking
later,
to.
"Hey, man, I'm really sorry." I'm like, "Yeah, you are. We're just trying to help you, but we're the assholes. I get it."
This is not an Elliot from, New York, is it?
What did you say about the weather?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, we used to do repairs for him. I'd throw a couple extra screws in the shell so that when he flipped the train up, the screws would bounce down through the shell. He used to he used to lose his mind. It was great.
I bought a couple engines from him. I bought a, Vision Line Quenchfield Challenger and a gen set from him.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic,
funny,
Mike.
funny. Yeah.
Well, Mike, we've been on here for a little over an hour. We try to keep them about an hour around here, but, we'll have to do this again because I'm gonna have to get some more stories from you on the line now, but, let everybody know what the websites that you are pushing out there for part service.
It's mthpartsandsales.com. And then actually there's for those guys out there that are on Facebook, um, swing by the Facebook page for MTH Parts and Sales, follow us, but more importantly, I just put a post up there, I think it was yesterday, about, scale pilots for the ES44s. MTH is tooling a brand new ES44 with a lot more detail, and the pilot I I'm trying to get public opinion, right? If you put that two-rail pilot on the older AES-44 models, there's a slight mismatch where the, pilot meets the shell. It's not hideous, but it's it's noticeable. I'm just trying to figure out from people whether they would accept it and we should order a bunch of them, or they won't accept it and we'll just order a couple of them. So,
Okay.
you know, feel free to go out there and post your opinion. I hate like heck I have to say that, but, you know, let us know what you think. Not that we
Us
care, but
It'd be fun to read responses.
what's that?
It'll be fun to read people's responses,
Oh, yeah.
so
Yeah, some of them are good. It's just don't be the guy on the forum that's like, "Hey, I don't have that product," but then shut up. Nobody wants
yeah,
to hear you,
y
right?
your answer's useless. Thanks for
Yeah, yeah,
playing.
thanks
Yeah.
thanks for chiming in, appreciate that.
I get some of those, like, type of deals on my Discord, like, I have a sports section and non-sports people come in like, "I don't really like sports." Well, there's no sense in posting, bro.
Yeah,
Just what are you
this is
doing?
this would be great if you could leave your message at the sound of the click. Like, go away,
Yeah,
go away.
exactly.
I don't have time
Alright.
for you.
Alright, everybody, you guys know, you can find me at Joker's Trains on all the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and probably something else I may have forgot, come on over to the Discord, O Gauge Evolution, and hit up the merch store, buy some shirts, help support this crusty ass podcast that I talked Mike into coming on with me today. So,
Hey,
Mike, it's been
are you still supporting that other website,
which one?
Small Boys in Bondage?
Yeah, I mean, whatever pays the bills, I got to keep buying parts.
20 bucks is 20 bucks, right?
Yeah, 20 bucks is 20 bucks. But Mike, I 100% appreciate you coming on, man. I always enjoy talking to you, and I'll have to talk you into this again at sometime in the future. So, all
All right, sounds good, man. I appreciate it. Thanks.
right, thanks, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Until next time, y'all know, I'm gonna holler at you. See ya.